Welcome to the DFS Build NBA edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. We are getting ready to go over the 7-game NBA DFS main slate at DraftKings. The goal is to help you win, pointing you to some picks that we really, really like, and just kind of talking over all the top plays and some overlooked plays, factoring in projections, matchup, ownership, and hopefully helping you win. If we do help you out in any way, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Both things help us out quite a bit. And then, when you subscribe, you get alerted to future videos just like this. They'll be popping up in your feed a little bit more. So if you like free advice, you like free breakdowns, and more than just play this guy now, and we're going to go over it a little bit more in depth and hopefully help you out. So we go position by position on bigger slates, and that is what we're going to do here. We're going to start a point guard. Luka Doncic comes in with a 55-point fantasy projection and not much ownership. That seems weird. I think I'm going to take the over on that ownership right now, because he's facing the Wizards, and he reminded us that he is a god. Last time he had 70 fantasy points. That's back-to-back 70-plus fantasy point outings for Luka. Can't say I'm shocked, because the second I start saying, oh, Luka hasn't been that good this year, we don't need to play Luka at 11K, he goes and just breaks the slate 2 times in a row. So Luka is definitely in play, especially with Wemby out. There's only like 3 truly elite studs on this 7-game slate. Of course, there is SGA at 1.1K cheaper. He projects literally the same, coming in with a 52 fantasy point projection. He is just going to carry about double the ownership if that ownership stands. So, Taylor, let's start there. Are we spending all the way up at point guard, and which of those 2 guys do you prefer?
I tuned out and near the end, but I think
Luka and SGA. Who'd you say?
Luka. I'm a little concerned. Obviously, the matchup. They're 15-point favorites. It's the best matchup you can get. So, in theory, he should feast, even if he gets 3/4 of minutes. But it's something to worry about, because the slate, it has enough value to get to Luka. Even more is possible in the future, but there are other options at the position. There are pay down options. There are other expensive ones that aren't 11K that look really good, potentially more, like I said. So I think Luka's good. I think Kyrie's good at 8.6. Obviously wouldn't play them together. Shea is decent as well, going back to Canada to face his hometown team and all that. And he's been amazing without Chet. So he's not far behind Luka, but as of now, I do have quite a bit more Luka.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, SGA doesn't. He just doesn't really have the same ceiling Luka has. I think they both have pretty similar floors. But I think it's not that much more money to go get Luka. I definitely prefer Luka on this slate. And if you want to play the blowout game, I mean, the OKC is a 10-point favorite too. That could easily be a housing against the Raptors, undoubtedly. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. I'm just going to pay for Luka at 11.2K. I think that's just fine, and he's been crushing, and hopefully he just keeps crushing. If you want to play SGA instead, no problem there. Great matchup. He's been awesome, and the projection's kind of similar to Luka. I'm just going to buy into the Luka ceiling in an amazing matchup. I don't really think it's going to go 4/4 for Luka, but I will be hoping that it does. Like you said, though, there is a lot to like here. Jalen Brunson at 8.4K against the Hornets. He looks really good. Devin Booker with no KD at 9.4K. He looks really good. I do think, if I'm looking in that range, I think Brunson would be the first guy I look at. Majorly discounted, really nice projection, really nice matchup. And you're just saving $1,000 compared to Booker or De'Aaron Fox or Scotty Barnes. I just think he is a much more appealing play. He is going to carry ownership because of that, coming at 20%. So if you do want to get different, you can go pivot off to De'Aaron Fox or Devin Booker for similar projections. And it's worth noting Booker does have a better projection than Brunson and is coming in at a little bit less ownership. So for tournaments, I do still like those guys a lot. I think if I'm not paying all the way up, though, Brunson is that first guy that I like.
Yeah, I think you can make a similar case for John Morant. Minutes came up a little bit in the last game. Still not going to play 35 to 40, but he's been so good per minute that I still think you can consider him. I like that game in general. Sacramento, Memphis has one of the higher totals on the slate, decently tight spread. I think Morant looks good. I do love Booker. I think maybe more so at shooting guard, obviously without KD. He and Beal are going to see more usage, and the matchup against New Orleans is a good one. So I think Beal's a great play. I guess we can have the Jordan Poole discussion again. And Darius Garland is fine, but there's a lot to like at point guard as usual.
As far as guys like up over 8K, the only one that's really on my radar other than Brunson, well, like I said, really like Booker. I think Fox looks really good, even though the matchup isn't that great. To me, they're more like pivots off of, or just their spend ups just slightly above Brunson. But Brunson is the guy there. The only other guy up above 8K that I like is going to be DeJounte Murray. Nice projection, only 8.1K. Not the most amazing matchup, but he looks pretty interesting too. Not too excited to pay 8K for Jamal Murray or go get Donovan Mitchell or Scotty Barnes in this spot. Scotty Barnes is always going to be a play because he just does so much stuff, and Donovan Mitchell just has a high ceiling. But it just these are not the areas where I want to get them. Jordan Poole is interesting. I mean, his minute projection and overall projection are terrible because I'm assuming it's factoring in a likely blowout, and rightfully so. But if you are going to pay for Luka, getting Poole or another Wiz or two as comebacks makes a lot of sense. I mean, if Luka is going to play 4 quarters and get 70+ fantasy points, pretty good reasoning to believe that one or more Wizards are going to get there as well. So all things considered, Poole has come up $100 more than he was last time. And his projection is just where it's at because he's probably not going to play all 4 quarters. But I do not mind him if you're playing Luka or Kyrie. I don't really want to target Wizards if I'm not targeting the Mavs, though. I don't want to, because then you're like going against it the other way. Like, oh, I'm going to fire up Wizards and then I'm not going to get exposure to Dallas if this game goes all the way. Like, that seems silly to me. So a little bit counterintuitive. So that's where I'm at with that. The Bulls are going to offer value on the slate for sure. Josh Giddey is questionable, so if he's in at 6.6K with no Kobe White, he's in play for sure. But Ayo Dosunmu at 5.3K, he's like basically a core play for me at the moment. I mean, at the very least, he's going to get extra burn without Kobe there, and he's just way too cheap. So I like him quite a bit. And then if Giddey's out, he just looks way, way better.
Yeah, I'll have more interest in him if Giddey's out. As of now, Giddey is the core play for me. Top 30 minutes in the last game without Kobe White. That's the main thing. He's always good per minute, but the minutes are shaky when the Bulls are at full strength. So without Kobe, there's a path to more there. We're going to be playing a lot of Spurs on this slate. So natural run back from the Chicago side looks like Giddey for me. There's another one that I really love as well that we'll get to later. But Giddey looks great. If he's out, Ayo looks better. Not really sure. Maybe Taylor Horton-Tucker, if Giddey's out, gets a few more minutes. But beyond that, like, they don't really have any guard. They don't have Lonzo Ball. So they're pretty thin in the backcourt if Giddey's out tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Giddey had 59 fantasy points in his last game. So if he can come anywhere close to 30 minutes, like I said, if he's in at 6.6K, I do like him a lot. But obviously, you're saving 1.3K in salary regardless, and there's no Kobe White. So I think you can definitely play them together. I mean, there's definitely been slates where we've played multiple Bulls, and that worked out just fine. Last guy I will mention is going to be Kason Wallace at 4.4K. His price hasn't really come up that much. I think $100. He's going to play about 30 minutes, so he has a role for the Thunder. And obviously the Raptors are a really good spot. So I do not mind him as a value if you want to pivot away from some of the other chalky value that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think Tyus Jones is worth a shout too in the mid-range. No KD.
I'm with you there.
He looks pretty decent.
Yeah, I always like Tyus. A little bit more usage there with no KD, like you said. Still is a good price for a guy who just gets like 10+ assists basically every game. I think I vouched for him last time, and I think he got like only 20 fantasy points. So, of course, but I do think he is still a solid play. Not the best ceiling in the world, but a pretty good floor play. Kind of like a better Mike Conley, if you will. So moving over to shooting guard, you already mentioned Devin Booker. Obviously, he's the best play there. He has the best projection by 5 fantasy points over Kyrie Irving. Brandon Miller at 8.5K. That is getting a little bit rich for me. I think he's still in play because the usage rate is great, and the matchup with the Knicks is a lot better than you would think it would be. Like I said last time, they are not great outside. So I would not be shocked if he fills it up. It's a little bit expensive. I would much rather pay for Devin Booker if I'm going to pay all the way up that high. You do have Kyrie and Donovan there as direct pivots in terms of price. Don't really want to do that personally, but you said you liked Kyrie. Zach LaVine looks really good at 7.6 with no Kobe White, and if Giddey is out, he looks even better. Let's see. Malik Monk has been crushing I don't know if 6.7K is expensive enough for who he's been. Memphis is not a good matchup, and obviously repeating like career outings, over and over is not that realistic. So I don't know if I'm really going to go there, but I will mention like he projects pretty well, so he does seem like a solid try. Who else you seen here at shooting guard besides Devin Vassell, ya boy, who smashed last time, and he looks really good again at 5K flat.
Yeah, he was not owned at all last time. I thought his minutes would come up, and they did. And now he's going to be like one of the chalkiest players on the slate. Without Wemby, he's a clear smash. Like, I don't know. He doesn't even have to play 30 minutes. He's just too cheap. He's cheaper than he was the other day, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But usage for him should be pretty stable. Matchup is a good one against Chicago as well. Stephon Castle, essentially the same price, same position. Not as good per minute. So I don't think he's as good a play as Vassell, but he's a bit cheaper, $100 cheaper. Perfectly fine with both of them. Maybe not together. Depends on how your limit is for the Spurs. Like, I don't think I want to play more than like 4 of them, and that might even be pushing it on this slate, but there's tons of value on that team. So no problem with it. I like Malik Monk quite a bit. I meant to mention him at point guard. He's obviously a better play at shooting guard, which is a thinner position. Other than that, Booker is fine, Poole's fine, CJ with Ingram back, not quite as psyched about it. Desumu again, you can play here, especially if Giddey is out, but it gets kind of thin after that.
Yeah, if we're looking for value, we don't want to go to the Spurs. You can look at Lou Dort at 4.9K. I think you're going to get 30-plus minutes against the Raptors. That's not terrible, although he did get 7 fantasy points last game, so we know he has a really bad floor. Christian Brown at 5.5K. He does get minutes. They pretty much have everybody back now. I think, Aaron Gordon's back, so he's not quite the appealing play that he was before, but still big minutes for him, so I think he's an okay price. And there's also Grayson Allen at 5.4K with no KD. Gets a little bit more usage. I think he's an okay play. But yeah, I'm with you. It's going to be Spurs season today, and I don't really care about the ownership that much. If you need to pick between the Spurs, I would just look at the projections, and I'm going to mostly look to projections and maybe ownership depending and kind of, go that route. But they look really good. There's no reason to not like them. Anybody else at shooting guard you want to mention?
Nope.
Okay, so moving over to small forward, Scotty Barnes leads the way with a 42.98 fantasy projection. Brandon Miller right behind him. I guess based off projection, Brandon Miller is the better play here. If I was going to play one of them, though, I think I would still play Scotty Barnes just because he's safer. And if you're it's like $600. Who cares? So I just think he's the better play between the two. But the better play, actually, in my opinion, would be RJ Barrett at 8.2K. You're saving a little bit of money, and you pay $900 less than his teammate Scotty. So he just looks like the better play of that trio. And then Zach LaVine, we already mentioned at 7.6. He might actually be the best spend-up option at small forward on this slate. I think DeMar DeRozan at 7.5 looks decent. And Josh Hart's going to get big minutes at 6.7 against the Hornets. I don't hate that. Not paying 8.3K for Bradley Beal, even with KD out. That does not interest me whatsoever. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see anything else really up top. We can get to values in a second, but is there anybody up top that you really feel drawn to? For me, it's pretty much RJ or LaVine, I think.
I like both of the Raptors. I have a little bit of Brandon Miller, but that's really it. I'm not really getting to LaVine, not really getting to Ingram on this slate. I do like Josh Hart quite a bit. He's my favorite small forward overall. Obviously, he can play 40 minutes, like as a minimum, it seems. So pretty safe play there. Ditto for Anunoby at 6'1". I think that's a decent value against Charlotte. Exploitable matchup with some injuries they have. I like them both quite a bit. Going cheaper, I think Royce O'Neal is going to be an obvious value without KD, presuming he starts. Harrison Barnes at 4.2 looks decent. He's Harrison Barnes, so there's always the Harrison Barnes caveat, of course. And then Keldon Johnson, maybe in a tournament, is okay, assuming he's one of the lower owned Spurs. I guess that's doable. There is a punt I like quite a bit. It's Matas Buzelis for the Bulls without Kobe White and Patrick Williams and Lonzo Ball. 20-plus minutes in the last game, potentially more if Giddey's out tonight. He's 3K flat. He was a lottery pick. Pretty good per-minute producer so far. He's just super cheap. He probably shouldn't be as cheap as he is, and we like this game in general. So Boozy at 3K flat looks pretty good.
I am with you, my friend. He looks really good. Giddy needs to be out to do that dive if you're me, but he's in play regardless. Josh Hart's not really carrying that much ownership, so I'm going to circle right back to that one. He's a little bit too cheap for the minutes he's getting and the matchup with the Hornets, so he might end up being my favorite small forward play overall. Obviously, Buzelis is a great value, but he is risky, so take that all with a grain of salt. All right, power forward. Jalen Williams pops off with a 43-point fantasy projection, the best projection at power forward. He's getting a little bit up there at 8.7K, but he's still viable with a really nice matchup against the Raptors. I think if you're going to spend up for an OKC guy, that would be the one I go get. Evan Mobley, decent price, 7.8K, decent projection, but the matchup with the Nuggets is not super friendly. We already talked about RJ Barrett, DeMar DeRozan, Josh Hart. There's Jaren Jackson Jr. Prices come down to 7.3, but the minutes seem to be capped. Nice projection, though. And then if you're going to stay in that like 6.5-ish range, I think Josh Hart is just the way to go there. If you want to go down, you mentioned Royce O'Neal. You can use him at power forward as well. Jeremy Sohan, I'm assuming, is still going to be limited even with the bodies out for San Antonio. Also, Iguodala is getting minutes for the Suns, so at 4.4K, especially with KD out, I think we can certainly consider that if we want to. Keegan Murray, like not the best projection, but he plays monster minutes and he does have a ceiling. I do not mind him at all at 6.3K. Not the best matchup, but obviously the Grizzlies are going to be more worried about Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, so I would not be surprised if he gets it going a little bit there. And then Alexander Sarr, 5.2K with some bodies up for Washington. And just in general, if you're going to play Luka and you want some cheap exposure to the Washington side as a run back, I think he's an okay play.
Yeah, I think Sarr's solid. Don't think I'd play him with Joval, assuming they start again together, which is not a sure thing at all. But Sarr's a decent value. I like Sohan a little bit. I don't love the limit, obviously, and he's 6K, but he's kind of leveled up so far this season. He's been dealing with a wrist injury, so I don't think his limit's going to be like super, super strict. I think he's a spur you can consider, assuming he goes overlooked relative to the other ones. Obviously, with you on Josh Hart, Royce O'Neal, Boozy, you can play here also. I like Aaron Gordon a good bit. Minutes have been coming up for him after his injury. Shouldn't really be super limited either. 5,900 against Cleveland. I think obviously the matchup's not great, but a low-owned, semi-underpriced Aaron Gordon is on my radar. And I'm with you on J-Dub. I think he's a solid play if you're not playing SGA with him.
Yep.
Oh, and Iguodala could play 30 minutes, assuming he starts again for Phoenix. And super cheap, not super good per minute, but
yeah, I said Iguodala.
Overlooked.
Thanks for listening.
He said Iguodala, so I
who cares? I say a lot of names wrong. If that is your takeaway, I can't.
You say guys after I say them all the time, so I don't see why it's a problem if I say it after you.
Well, because you always call it out, so now I'm calling it out to you, sir. All right, let's move it on.
Call it out.
I'm going to call it out every time. All right, center. So, we can pay out for Luka or SGA, but guess what? They're not the only studs on the slate. There is no Wemby, but there is Nikola Jokic. So 61-point fantasy projection. I think it's the second best of the slate. Not projecting for ownership. Oh, is it a Luka Jokic double stack night? Oh, it could be. Right now, the ownership does not flock to either of them. So playing one or both of them together is very, very interesting to me. He looks awesome. The matchup on the road with the Cavs is not awesome, so that would be the main deterrent. Plus, he is 12K. So if you're looking at Jokic versus Luka, I think Luka is the obvious smash play. He's $1,000 cheaper and in a way, way, way better spot. So if it's a 1-versus-1, that's an easy call in my opinion, but I do not mind stacking them together if you can get there. Towns at 9K, his price has come down a little bit, and he's got a matchup with the Hornets. He's another reason why I don't think you need to play Jokic necessarily on the slate, because Cat looks amazing here. Sabonis looks good at 9.3K, but I would prefer Cat. Vooch with some usage gone from the floor with Kobe White out, he looks a little bit better than usual, and plus no Wemby there, so he's fine at 8.5K. Once again, though, I prefer Cat. Nobody else really calls to me. I think Pirtle, if he's in, he's just a really good, solid option with double upside. And he always projects pretty well. Not the softest matchup against OKC, but I think he's okay. But yeah, really, it's like I'm either entertaining stacking Luka and Jokic together, or I'm at center. I'm paying up for Cat, I think.
Yeah, I think Vooch is the best center play on the slate by a decent margin without Kobe White. Just an awesome spot against a windmillless Spurs team that cannot protect the paint in this scenario. He should eat Zach Collins for lunch, I would think. He's a pretty good price in the mid-range. Not even going to be that popular, I don't think, at a pretty loaded position. Most people are going to pay down here, I assume. Zach Collins and Charles Bassey at 3.5 and 3K flat, respectively, just insanely cheap. Going to split the center minutes for San Antonio. I think they're cheap enough to play together, but I think a lot of people will do that. So it's not my favorite strategy on this slate. There's a lot of opportunity costs at center too, so I would split them up personally in a tournament build. If Pirtle's out, I assume Bruno Fernando is going to start at 3K flat for Toronto. He's a good per minute guy as well. Even 20 minutes for Fernando is enough to pay off. OKC can't really rebound either. On the other side of that game, I think Hartenstein's in a good bounce back spot, especially if Pirtle's out. And then Joe Val, if he starts, of course, even in 18 minutes in the last game and a huge blowout, he still got there. Obviously, he's good per minute. He can do that again. I'm concerned about the blowout, so I don't love that play. And I'm also not convinced he's going to start this game against Dallas. But if he does, naturally, he's a good mid-range play again.
Yeah, my only issue with JVL is that his price has come up. So you're kind of paying for volatile minutes and a blowout. I don't know. I don't like him as much as I did the last couple of slates, but he's still okay. Certainly a very good per minute guy. So I don't hate it. I think it's obvious that you're going to play one of these Spurs guys. I'm just going to play whoever starts. That they're both so cheap, it doesn't even matter. They probably will just split the minutes, but I mean, if the game stays close, I'm going to hope that whoever starts ends up getting a little bit more and is a little bit more successful. I'm imagining that's going to be Collins, and at 3.5K, he's just way too cheap. So it doesn't even matter. It honestly doesn't matter who starts or how many minutes they get. Like they're so cheap that they're going to smash both of them probably will smash their price tags. And of course, Charles Bassey is projecting for like double the ownership. So again, another good reason for me to just play Collins there. I'm not really seeing anything else. We already mentioned Iguodaro. There, I said it right this time, I think, right? And he is also 4.4K, so he's fine as well. I don't think there's any other like true punts like Collins and Bassey, though. That Misi guy has been crushing for the Pelicans. Like Ingram is back, so maybe that might curb it a little bit, and he's even questionable. But that's pretty crazy what he's been doing for them.
I don't think
yeah,
a bad tournament play would be a Daniel Gafford against the Wizards 5-4 revenge game. I think I think you can fire him off. Obviously, with Lively in, the minute floor is pretty low, but really good per minute guy, so it's okay.
Yeah, they're both like 5.4, 5.5. They're both viable, to be honest. Such a smash spot. If you're really worried about the blowout, you think it's going to blow out, maybe just play whoever doesn't start, and then maybe they get the whole fourth quarter themselves or something.
I think Gafford is going to probably come off the bench, so I think that's interesting.
Yeah, Bruno Fernando, like you said, 3K flat if he ends up starting. I mean, I don't really like the spot against OKC at all, and I've certainly had some Bruno Fernando chalk nights that did not go well. But I mean, 3K is 3K, so yeah, I think right now though I'm probably looking at Cat if I'm spending up at center, and then I'll probably get one of those Spurs guys in the utility slot. Really wish one of them would be power forward eligible. That would kind of take care of that for me pretty easily. All right,
they'd also be like 80% owned if they were both. If one of them had power forward, everyone would play them together. So it actually makes you think about it that they're not. Also, Mobo is 3-2 if Pirtle is out. That's something you can consider. Even off the bench, he's been pretty good per minute as well. Don't mind that.
What about your boy
Boucher?
Yeah.
Not as psyched about him. He doesn't really play center, so I don't think the Pirtle news is going to like result in a huge minutes boost. But he's always in play. Probably because he weighs 100 pounds.
Is he that light? I didn't think he was that frail.
Look him up. He's
all right, fine.
Like 6'10" and 100.
You know what though? We've seen frail guys play center before. What's that one dude? The Bol? Come on.
Bol. I don't think he's a center either.
he has certainly played center before. Definitely. but he's not a center, truly. Okay, so that is going to do it for the breakdown. Let's wrap it up with our flag plant and overall strategy. So who's the number one guy that you feel right now you're going to be building your lineups around, and what is your general strategy for the slate?
Definitely splitting up the Spurs centers. I don't think playing them together makes a lot of sense. Like they're both probably going to smash their price tags, but it's also a build that people are going to have. So playing one of them opens you up to a bunch of other really good center plays who are naturally going to go under-owned. And if we get the Toronto thing, like I don't think you're insane to fade both of the Spurs guys in a lineup. I wouldn't fade them in a portfolio of lineups, obviously, but in one lineup, I think you can look to Toronto as an alternative to that. And then Vassell, obviously the building block. Like even if he plays 28 minutes again, he's way too cheap. The usage will go up, but that won't be just a very easy play.
Yeah, yeah. I think my number one thing is I'm just gonna go get Luka at this ownership. I think SGA looks really good too for $1,000 cheaper, and there is Jokic there. But I think if this game can stay reasonably close, that is going to be a nuke situation waiting to happen. So I like that. I think for the Spurs thing, I agree with only playing one of them. I'm just going to play Collins right now. He's less owned. So I honestly don't even care if he starts at this point. He's so cheap. He's usually like 5 to 6K when this happens. So the pricing algorithm kind of messed it up for everybody. So I'm going to probably lock him in, probably going to lock in Dosunmu as long as Giddey is out. And then I'm going to get a lot of exposure to the Spurs and really the Spurs Bulls game in general. I like to call on Vooch. So in lineups where I'm not paying up for Cat, I think I'll take $600 savings and go get Vooch. But honestly, I really like Cat too. Like if I had to do multiple flag plants, right now I'm looking at Zach Collins, Luka, Cat, and Dosunmu. So, and then the Spurs, it's kind of like, let's see where the ownership is. We know we're going to get these bigs to some extent, at least one of them. But where is the ownership going to land on these perimeter guys? Just see where it is and see where the projections lie to, and then kind of make those calls as you go. But hopefully this helps you out. Hopefully this pushes you towards some plays that you like, and just factor this into your lineup tool, whatever you use, or just your general build, and hopefully it helps you win. That is going to do it for us, though. Give this a like and also subscribe to the channel if you want to catch more videos just like this. Thanks for watching, and good luck.